one of the pro staffers there. Today we're curing up salmon eggs. I use cure from the store. I don't do my own, just whatever's available. I find that most of them work. Really the key is the borax the eggs later. So I'll cure these eggs with that, and then let it sit in its juices for a couple hours, and then after a couple hours I'll borax it, put a little brown sugar on it, and then it's pretty much ready to go. You can either freeze it, put it in the refrigerator. It'll last in the refrigerator for about a month. In the freezer probably a couple years usually after you borax it. Keeps its color. A lot of times I like to vacuum seal my eggs. That way I don't get the freezer burn on it. I mean, it's just experience over the years. Back in the day, you just wrapped them up in a bag and then froze it, and then a lot of times that would get freezer burn on it. So what I'm going to do today, here right now, is pour these eggs out in this bag. I probably got about 3 pounds of it here. And then what I'll do is I'll take a pair of scissors and cut this open. So what you want to do is open these up so the cure gets right in there, inside the eggs. So what I like to do, since some of these are big, I'll cut these in half, which helps spread the cure around. Then I'll open these little runs up. You'll see them when you open it up. And I'll just kind of set these in here. Sometimes I'll open it up even more. You don't want to cut too many of those runs, because if you're not stacking them and you're using skein as bait, the skin that's on there will help it pull together. So you don't use too much of this. Because you don't want to burn the eggs. So what you'll want to do is sprinkle it on like you're sprinkling on salt or pepper on your steak. So there's directions on it, but usually I just kind of wing it. I think it's asking for 2 tablespoons per pound. So what I'll do is I'll kind of sprinkle it on there like you would do a steak or a salmon steak on the grill. I'll just kind of spread it around. And that way that it keeps everything, you don't You can use any color cures. You can get colored borax. It doesn't really matter. I just use the plain borax because it's just easy to get. I find that buying that color stuff, Myers has it for sale if you want to get it. So you want to cut these open like that. You want to get that cure right in there. So I'll just kind of stack them on each other. I've seen guys that like to kind of dry them out on a table. I don't think it's necessary after you borax it. Borax itself is going to dry it itself. You might Okay, Jerry from Hooks and Horns, back again. Our eggs have cured for 2 hours. Like I said, first hour, you want to let it sit in the refrigerator for an hour, and then you want to flip it around in this juice. Some guys will use a jar to do that, and then flip the jar upside down so they don't have to touch it. I just kind of flip it around. Then you let it sit for another hour. Then you bring it on out here. I use a strainer. I'll strain all this juice out of here, just to get most of that juice out of there, so the borax doesn't have to dry up so much. Liquids. And after it's drained pretty good, it's been sitting out here for about 10 minutes, draining, and then kind of move it around to get the rest of the juice drained out. It's pretty much done. So what I'll do is I'll stick it back in this bowl right here. And about just a few pieces at a time, a little borax on it. Kind of get it to spread out. Little raw sugar, brown sugar, white sugar, it doesn't matter. And I'll just kind of layer it on top of each other a little bit. Just to make sure it gets coated good. Kind of want to do this, so kind of flip it around. And as you lay it down here, you want to try to get it opened up. You want that borax all in there. I've always just put sugar on there on top of the cure. I'm sure the cure has some sugars and salts in there for it. I don't know, it's just something that I've always done, and it seems to work for me. So I know that I've seen a lot of other videos and guys doing it. They kind of do the same thing with the sugars. Some guys don't. I don't think it really matters. It just depends on your preference. I find that it might get, I just assume that it's going to give it like a sweeter taste, but for the fish, but you just don't really know. This works for me, it catches fish, so I just continue to use it. Most cures have some kind of shrimp smell to it, or that's in there, so you don't have to add any kind of other flavors that you think you might have to add. Eggs up. That's what the borax does. Cure will keep it from rotting so fast, and the borax will keep it from rotting so fast. But the borax is really there to harden your eggs up, the skin, make it tough. You know what I mean? So it doesn't. You don't lose color after your first 3 or 4 casts. Because what happens if you don't do that, your eggs will get really white as you fish, and you want to keep the color to it. So I'll just finish off the brown sugar on there, about a cup a pound of brown sugar, borax. It just depends on how much you want to put on there. So I got it all boraxed, mixed up. I want to just break up them little chunks of borax. Mine's a little hard because it's been sitting outside my pole barn for a while. Just kind of mix it up. See any spots that need borax on it, give it a little bit extra. See, like that, like this piece right here, could use a little extra borax after opening it up. Like I said, you don't have to be shy with this stuff. Borax is pretty good stuff if you're drying skins or doing what do they call it, antler mounts, just with the skull, you know. It does a really good job on deer skulls and stuff like that. When you mix it up, you might find that you get some loose eggs going on, but that's okay. You can always take those loose eggs, separate them, tie them in the sacks. If you're not using a skein bait and you want to sack it, that works pretty good. And after you borax it, you're pretty much done. Just make sure it's well coated, like I said, and should look like that. And I'll let this sit in the refrigerator for another couple hours. If I want to freeze some, I'll just let it sit for a couple hours, then I'll vacuum seal it and freeze it, like I said. And then if I'm just fishing for the next couple weeks and I just don't want to freeze it and just keep it as fresh as possible, then I'll just let it sit in the fridge like this. Either I'll put it in a bag, Ziploc bag, or a jar, whatever works. You'll notice that the borax will suck the juice out and then suck it back in if you let it sit longer than a couple hours. And that's kind of how that works. Thanks for watching. Hit a like on Hooks and Horns or Fishing Michigan. Both of those are our sites. Yeah, come check us out.